Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Mainhart, and I am the Outreach Coordinator here at the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation. Today, my guest is Christine Lombardo-Zahn, who is one of the attorney mediators here at Alpha Center. We have had a couple of discussions about the topic of parental alienation. And in this particular segment, Christine's going to make some suggestions for coping strategies, given that it is certainly a very, very delicate and yet a terrible topic, especially for the people going through it. So, Christine, thank you for joining us today, and give us some ideas on what to do with this.
Thanks for hosting, Barbara. It's always good to see you. And, going through and conducting the research on this, you're right. It is really a difficult topic. And as we discussed in the first two segments, it's one that's not completely accepted or recognized yet, but they're making progress. So yeah, this segment is on, okay, you're the alienated parent, and how do you cope with it? How do you deal with the damage that's being done on possibly a daily basis? First, I want to acknowledge that it is painful, it's unfair, and it is very difficult to overcome. And that's the reality. And I'm a practical attorney, and I tell my clients straight up. So, I give them the what I call the refreshing truth, and it's not always good news. However, if you're the alienated parent and you can reach the children and get them some kind of support and help, there is hope. And that's why we're doing this video, and that's why we write the blogs. So I hope that some of these tips will be helpful to you. Just keep in mind that not every tip is going to be right for every person, right? It's not a one size fits all. So if you get one tip out of this video and it helps you, you're winning, okay? And this is the start, not the end. So one of the first tips that I wrote or talk about is to expect the worst and hope for the best. Lawyers, we tell our clients this all the time. However, if you're an alienated parent, you have to expect the worst and prepare for it. Sounds negative, but it will prepare you in the long run, and it will help you basically stay on high alert at all times.
Yeah, and that's probably in most cases that would not be a good set of advice. But in this case, I guess since the other parent is generally relentless, you can't really let down your guard.
Right. As a mediator, we are always encouraging communication and goodwill and good faith, work arrangements and collaboration. This is a little different because you have one parent who is literally trying to isolate you from your children. So all bets are off. The second thing that's really important to understand or tip is to accept that reality and understand that this is your reality. You're not going to have a co-parent who is going to be reasonable or kind. This person is going to do everything in their power to isolate you from your children. And so they're going to pull out some tactics that you never, ever imagined. By accepting that, it really helps you focus then on being able to really cope with it. So that's kind of maybe step 1A. Another thing that you should do is seek the advice and guidance or counsel of a therapist. With this research, I've talked to a number of people locally, and there are therapists out there that specialize in parental alienation.
Wow.
A lot of the courts, believe it or not, have a list of those such therapists. And while all therapists are useful, in my opinion, some of them have carved out special areas that they focus on. And if you can find someone who specializes in this, your sessions are going to be much more valuable because they're going to give you actual tips on what do you say in this particular situation, or how do you act when, child does this. So
right.
definitely,
because you probably already feel like you're always under attack. And this just gives you something to use right away, other than just being completely blindsided or, frantic.
Right. Like one particular example is that, an alienated parent is typically going to be on the defense all the time. And so when a child attacks the parent, the alienated parent or the targeted parent, they're going to jump and be defensive. Well, that's not really a healthy approach to take because it's not the child's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So a therapist is going to tell the parent, stop, take a deep breath, and try and look through the eyes of the child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I can't speak for therapists, but I've talked to enough of them that they've given me some, tips along the way.
Mm-hmm.
There are support groups out there. So there's support groups through Facebook, through social media channels, in your community. I will tell you from researching them that it is, again, not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to do some work here and, research the different groups and see if there's one that fits for you. I know a lot of these alienated parents are busy single parents. They're working. They might not have time to go to a group on a Wednesday night. So I know some of the groups are doing virtual meetings. Some of them might record their meetings, but it can't hurt to do the research and jump out there and look for live support. I will caution you that you don't want to necessarily join a group where all you're going to do is swim in, venting and listening to each other vent.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose should be to identify strategies to resolve issues and hopefully, build healthy relationships with the kids.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. In fact, the first two videos that we did are being followed by a couple of parental alienation groups on Facebook. So I have
Good to
seen
know.
that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good to know. And, like we said, our purpose is to, offer some support and guidance from the Alpha Center and, make sure that we're there and available. And honestly, if we help one person with this video, I'm happy. It's one step at a time. So with that one step at a time, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but another tip is to understand that this process is, custody and co-parenting, and dealing with parental alienation, depending on the ages of the children, is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
So a really good piece of advice is to just take things one day at a time. And I will tell you that there's sometimes some days where you're going to be taking it 1 minute at a time.
Yeah.
And you might have to just stop and take a deep breath and say, okay, I can get through this. And it ties into my other tip, which I usually say in every single segment, which is to be kind to yourself. I think a lot of us are very critical of ourselves and we, are quick to blame ourselves for, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that or I shouldn't have acted that way. Be forgiving. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but be kind to yourself and take one thing at a time. And if something good happens, stop and recognize that. And then, hopefully that gives you some positive energy to move forward.
Great.
Finally, if the support groups don't work, you need to have a support system. Okay, so some of us aren't really, if maybe you're an introvert and you're not a people person and you're not into going and having coffee with the alienation support groups. Well, you need to still have support. You need a support system. So if you don't have a therapist and you can't get into a support group for parental alienation, I recommend that you find friends, family members, and use them. These people are there to help you. And if they say they're there to help you, don't feel like you're imposing, like take them up on that advice and talk to them. It is better that you talk to them than the children.
Mm.
The children need to stay out of this. It's, yes, they're kind of like the focal point, but they're victims just as much as you are. And as the adult, you kind of have to put all of that in perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great idea. So, and yeah, this, I know that it's a very difficult topic because we've been on it now for the third time, and you know, the idea that, you know, your one person who is your spouse, okay, the person you were married to, the father or mother of your children. I mean, a person may feel that they are almost unrecognizable when they exhibit this behavior, and so that too is very traumatizing.
It is very traumatizing. And that goes back to some of my earlier points where you have to come to terms with that and accept it. And it is very hard because not only are you going through a divorce and you're losing the person who you thought you knew,
Hmm.
you're dealing with kind of like a death of sorts with that person, and you're grieving over them, the loss of that, you know, the loss of the person you married.
Yeah.
And that's hard, but all of this is happening kind of at the same time.
Yeah.
It can be very, very overwhelming. So I didn't emphasize the self-care enough, but meditation, yoga, breathing techniques, getting enough sleep, and absolutely making sure that you nourish yourself and putting good, healthy foods in your body. It makes a difference.
Yes.
If you're not good for you, you will not be good for anyone else.
Yep. It's kind of like put your own face mask on first.
Yes, yes, definitely. Good analogy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much, Christine. For anyone who would like to read a little bit more about this, you can go to our website, alpha-divorce.com, and the blog along with the video will be there, so you can find out some of the research that Christine has done to be able to develop these strategies. Thank you so much.
Good luck, everyone.